Hey guys, we're going to dive right into part two with Kushti. We hope you enjoy. So Kushti, in places like Cardano and other chains, you have where proof of stake, you have staking where people can earn passive income off their ADA just by designating to a stake pool. In ERG, we don't really have that for our main bag of ERG. You know, if we have a sub token like ErgoPad or a Neta or what else is on ErgoPad, you can stake things and earn kind of tokens back, but nothing really for Ergo until we have this Sigma bonds. Can you talk about where that came from? How it was kind of a two-part project that two people got together and made separately, and what it offers people.
In regards with bonds and how to profit from them, maybe it would be better to start with USD, for example, right? For example, if ERC is currently 1.5 USD, right, and you are going to buy some ERCs 100, for example. You wanna make them work, then what can you do? Just right now, let me take a look what's there on Sigmafi. If you have 120 ERC, you can provide a loan to a bond issuer, and the bond has collateral of 250 CQSD, and interest is 6%. 6% for 7 months, so it's like 11% a year. All right, so what does it mean? You have a risk of default, right? Then you will get collateral, so 250 CQSD means you will get the price of a bit more than 2 USD per ARC, right? So from 1.5 you will get a bit more than 2. In case of successful repayments, you will get interest, right, in ERC. And that's how it works. So there is some risk, right? In one scenario, you will get interest on ERC. Another scenario, you are basically selling ERC with profit, right? If you just acquire them according to current price.
So you don't get let's say the loan is defaulted on. You'd never get that interest that was designated for the loan. All you get is a collateral, no interest. The interest goes back to the where's the interest go? Because the interest is collected when you create the bond, correct? Bond request.
No, so interest is paid during repayment, right? So when the borrower is repaying the debt, right? There is no interest here, so you will get collateral just, and average percentage is like 150. Right, so I've provided some loans, and I've also taken some. We'll describe it a bit later. But then it's like you can get profit in USD, right, in case of default, like 50% in 7 months.
So the risk here, we have two-part risk, right? We have the lenders and the borrowers. So what you're saying is the lenders, for a risk of a low, essentially, interest rate, perhaps more of a slow burn profit, you can lend money to people with the hope that you're going to get that interest rate. And worst case, you get your collateral, which in the case of SIG USD is a set amount. So it's not like the SIG USD price is going to fluctuate. Whereas borrowing, you can borrow against, let's say you think that ERG is going to decrease in price, so you can take out a loan in SIG USD to, or vice versa, to try to counteract that essentially for the borrower.
Yeah, so you borrow, you can use borrowing to get leverage, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if you have ERC, you can mint CQSD, maybe at a higher price, and then use those CQSD to get more ERC, right, and to mint more CQSD.
Yep.
And vice versa. So you can borrow CQSD, right, to CQSD to buy ERC, right, and use that ERC to borrow more CQSD. So it's kind of a shorting strategy and long strategy with
So that's
basically leverage, right?
That method you just described, Kushti, that's in hopes that ERG price goes up.
So if you borrow CQSD to buy ERC, right? So you hope that the price will go up, so you will mint CQSD at a higher price to repay your debt.
Okay, and what's the opposite? Can you do the opposite on here and hedge that bet?
Yeah, so if you're shorting, right, then what you are doing, then you put ERC as collateral to borrow SIG USD to buy then ERC at a lower price and repay, right?
It's an interesting strategy that I'm looking forward to see, like the dynamic come to light. Because like you said, you can use these to leverage or build a leverage position, and utilizing those two strategies, you can short and long essentially. Just thinking about the trader's perspective, the mindset and everything like that, it's and the DeFi sort of scenario added into it. I find it really intriguing and exciting to watch it all play out.
Yeah, so traders are boring, but you can just provide liquidity to them, right? To get interest, to get collateral.
Yep. And that sort of builds upon like what QX mentioned a little bit earlier as well, is so the difference between a proof of stake model where you do have a set sort of incentive there to provide basically reward staking and provide consensus and everything like that. On a proof of work system, it's your barrier to entry is basically zero. You're not competing against a proof of works protocol. You're not competing against ERG in that sense. So if you decide to create a loan and it's 1%, say a miner comes in and wants to provide a 1% interest loan or anything like that, they're actually out-competing the ERG protocol in some respects.
Yeah, so if you have staking, then those interest rates should be competitive, right?
Yep.
So the inherent risk here, Kushti, is that as a, let's say, it's always easier for new people to come in and maybe provide a loan as opposed to thinking about requesting a loan. So let's have a newcomer come in and look at the loan request and pick up, let's say, this one. Okay, so the risk here for them is that if ERG doubles in price in the next how many months? 7 months, then these people who are accepting this loan are going to lose out essentially, because there's no way in hell that the person that you're loaning it to is going to repay that loan when ERG is doubled. They're going to default and have you collect your 131% collateral of Sigma USD, correct? So you'll essentially lose out on that ERG that you lent them because they're gonna default on the loan on purpose. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you cannot enforce repayment, right, on the blockchain. You have fixed profit in this case in USD, right? if we are using it as a unit of account. So yeah, whether you have interest or fixed profit, and in this case, you have a kind of impermanent loss, right? So you are fixing the profits, you are losing what's our rate, right? So if ERC price would be above our collateralization, so yeah, then you are probably losing unrealized potential, right?
What would you say the risk? What would you say the risk profile of this system of Sigma bonds or Sigmafi, sorry, is compared to providing liquidity in a pool on Spectrum with the possibility of impermanent loss there? What would you say for newcomers coming in and trying to gauge their risk profile of which one should I maybe dip my toes in? What would you say would be the less of a risk profile for, especially in this market where the price of ERG could go higher, near in the future, or could go lower, with a bear market kind of thing?
Yeah, so well, in this case, bonds may be more flexible, right? Even so, you have, but yeah, from my point of view, maybe. So in case of ERC price going lower, so you are having interest in ERC, right? So you don't have any loss, right? Expressed in ERC, but you are not actively trading, right? So you just provided the loan. And yeah, in case of ERC price going up, so yeah, you have fixed profit, which could be compared with impermanent loss, right? So in case of liquidity pool, so if price is going up or down, so you are having impermanent loss expressed in different unit of accounts, right? So ERCO, CQSD, and yeah, so for liquidity pool, well, the best option is if you can jump out at the same price, right? In this case, you have profit with zero impermanent loss. I mean.
And the beauty of Sigma bonds as well, or Sigmafi, so I keep calling it Sigma bonds. Sigmafi is that you have more of a choice of your collateral risk that you can take. So you essentially are presented with a palette of collateralizations that you can assume your own risk there and say, I feel good about taking this 160% collateral risk as opposed to the 131 because I don't think that this coin will go above that collateral and see me at a profit, and I'll get the interest kind of thing. So I guess it gives you more of a menu of risk choices when you're dealing with the collateral percentages on Sigmafi.
Yeah, so you can also build more complex strategies, right? So, for example, if you have some revenue stream, such as staking profit, for example, right? Then you can buy ERC, right? And yeah, provides a loan, then whether you are having fixed profit, right? So you are having more ERC. Yeah, so that could be a good addition to DCA, for example, right? If you are doing daily DCA.
How I remember DuckPools did something where they triple embedded their loans. Essentially, they took out one loan, took out another loan, took out another loan. Is that something you'd ever try on Sigmafi, where you take out SigUSD, buy ERG, put that up for collateral for more SigUSD, buy ERG, put that up for more SigUSD collateral, buy ERG? Ever interested in trying that here? See how that works?
Yeah, that's doable, right? So yeah, you can build if you are doing trading, you can build a leverage position by using bonds, actually, which is quite funny. So yeah, this similar
yeah,
to
100 times.
this similar to DuckPools. So yeah, I actually yeah made some bonds in order to borrow CQSD, right, to buy ERC, but yeah, then I put those ERCs into Grid bots actually. So into grids.
That's a good changeover, Kushti. Can we go to? Can you talk about your decentralized grid bots?
Yeah, so GridBots, grids, actually well known, right? Nowadays, most of centralized exchanges are providing trading strategies like grids, right? Automated ones. So you can also do manual grids.
You're saying on the front end, somebody can go in and set a high and a low buy price themselves inside like one of the central exchanges, and they've got that all worked out for you on the exchange itself.
Yeah, so they will create orders automatically, right? They can even choose a range automatically. So Hobby, for example, allowing for that, and KuCoin, I guess, as well. So CoinX is allowing you to put money into simulation of liquidity pool on top of centralized exchange, right? Which is well, another option. So grids can be compared to concentrated liquidity pools, right? So it's basically when your liquidity is working within a certain range, you are choosing. How do they work? So, for example, you are choosing a range from 1.5 to 2, right? So, for example, I'm buying ERC right now at 1.5. So then I'm creating grids. So basically, that means I'm creating a lot of sell orders. Selling ERC for CQSD on the way from 1.5 to 2 CQSD, for example, right? And when an order is filled and I'm trading against Spectrum liquidity pool, right, so when the order is filled, so automatically an order is created on another site, right? So if sell order is filled, then automatically my bots are creating buy order. So there is some price difference, and you can choose difference, right, to get regulate your income basically, right? And you also can have a kind of impermanent loss if the price is going out of range, right? Basically, so if price is going above 2. In my example, then you are having all the ERCs being sold, right? But you are having profit in USD then. And what's good if the price is going sideways, like it's doing for many months to the moment, then you are getting profit from that, right? So from sideways movements.
What do you mean when you said your buy order goes in? So if you have a sell order for SigUSD at $1.57, where's your buy order being created and at what price during that movement there?
Sorry, so if my sell order is
essentially you said you've set it to sell between $1.50 and $2 your SigUSD, but then you said when that happens your bot then creates a buy order. Where's that buy order being created and what's it targeting at what price?
All right. So, for example, you're creating order at every 5 cents, right? So 1.5, 1.55, 1.6, and so on, right? And when 1.55 is filled, for example, so you're creating a buy order at 1.45, right? So
okay,
to 10 cents lower.
So you're stepping.
And when buy order is filled, so you're creating a sell order again higher, right?
And do you do this multiple times with small chunks of ERG and SigUSD, or are you doing a decent sized pot all at once with those buyer and sellers?
Yeah, there is order size, fixed order size I'm using in my bot, so it's like 100 ERC. Right, and the bot is accumulating ERC only. Yeah, it's always profiting, doing profit in ERC only, right? So CQSD amounts remains constant. If price is going back at the same level. Then I have some observed profit, right? And then yeah, basically I can do fundraising via bonds, for example, for that, right? If profit is higher than interest rate, it would be profitable. Also orders smart contracts, right? So smart orders, so they're allowing you to withdraw funds or to create sell orders. So then it could be outsourceable, right? Potentially everyone can create such orders, right? And my bots can for example, fill your orders, right, without any risks for you. Because trading strategy is encoded there, and so a bot cannot play in another direction.
Yeah, very interesting point to raise there, having the ability to be outsourceable. So if I wanted to sort of spin something up, or I wanted to utilize the grid trading system, I can utilize your bots and they execute my orders for me.
Right. So as far as I know, that's what grids, machine of finance is going to do, right? So then, yeah, you can deploy your liquidity without any risks, right? So only you can withdraw the funds, and the trading is controlled by on-chain contracts.
How does this scale, Kushti? How does this? Let's say on Spectrum Dex right now with the volume that it is, what happens if 50, 60 people spin up your grid bots and point them towards a Spectrum ERG SigUSE pool?
Oh, so yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. So I think with increased volume of the spectrum, right, there will also be incentive to put money into the spectrum pool, right, because of increased volume. And also, because grids are static, right? So I'm not doing anything with them. So I just coded them for fun, actually. Then you have a lot of arbitrage, right? So basically, you have three kinds of decentralized exchanges there, right? So CQSD Bank, Spectrum Liquidity Pool, and grids, right? And because of trading between them, so for example, trading between my grids and Spectrum Pool, there are also additional arbitrage possibilities for trading between CQSD Bank and the Spectrum Pool, for example, right? Yeah. Because my order got executed, maybe arbitrage possibility can appear in regards with trading between CQSD Bank and the Spectrum Pool. So yeah, that's kind of complex liquidity game between bots after all, right? So as far as I know, I witnessed bots trading all the time when it's profitable between the Spectrum Pool and CQSD Bank, right? So in this regard, CQSD Bank can be considered as kind of liquidity pool also, right? And you have then arbitrage possibilities, right? Like the three ways now. So grids, Spectrum Pool, and CQSD Bank.
What where can somebody find this code to download it and run it and install it?
Install what? Sorry.
For your GridBots, where can they find the code to run that?
Oh, so yeah, I've published contracts and rules to track, right, those contracts with the nodes, but off-chain part is not published. I can do that, but yeah, I'm a little bit hesitate to do that because it wasn't coded in like one day and the code is really stupid.
What'd you write it in? What'd you code it in? What language?
Scala is usually, so yeah, I thought about playing with Rust maybe, but yeah, I was lazy as usually. So yeah, I spent like few hours maybe.
Kushti calls himself lazy.
During some weekends. Yeah, so well, the code is really stupid. So yeah, I mean, probably I will spend more time polishing it to publish it, right?
So at some point, in the future, this grid trading bot could be available to the everyday Joe who could spin it up in.
So yeah, as far as I know, Machine of Finance is working on that. Exactly right. So yeah, then you can set up your own grids, right? And then they bots will execute. I'm not sure about the off-chain part, so maybe like in Spectrum, it would be possible to run your own off-chain bot, right, and get some profit from running the bot, so from matching the orders. So Spectrum is doing that, and as far as I know, I had talks with a few folks running the bots actually. So it seems like pretty small, but still, yeah, doable business.
Yeah, I think we just talked to Gaz about that, about his off-chain bots and how it is quite a small amount of funds coming your way. So it's more for the love of the batching process that you run at least those transaction batches.
Right, but well, if you have some idle computing resources, you can get some little extra profit, right? Which is also good. Why not? So, well, as far as I know, well, people are running the bots, so then yeah, probably there is some incentive to do that.
Where do you see? Can you give us examples of, if you know off the top of your head, where you see something like Sigmafi out in other chains and what that success has been on those chains? If you have that information, if you don't, that's fine. Just wondering if you've seen it out there in the wild on other chains and how it's been utilized, and especially with chains that are bridged at other places. So in the future with Rosen coming up, we can have wrapped ADA on Sigmafi as well. And with an BTC bridge, wrap Bitcoin, and hopefully more wrap Bitcoin from Rosen in the future too, in here as well. So how have you seen this kind of thing in action on other chains, and how has it been taken and used?
So Sigmafi like application. So as far as I know, well, if we are talking about Ethereum, EVM blockchain, so well, the architecture is not quite suitable for that. So well, they're mostly they're friendly about things like DuckPools, right? So DuckPools is actually well, basically a copycat of some Ethereum, right? Popular application. I don't know which one. So, well, in the accounts model, that works better. Actually, it's the only feasible way probably to do contracts, right, on Ethereum. So to have some pool rights, and well, you can put into the pool, but then it's working right as a single smart contract. So, well, the beauty of Sigmafi under the hood is that bonds are actually peer-to-peer contracts, right? So there is no any Sigmafi contract on the blockchain. So every bond is actually an autonomous contract, right? So it's kind of peer-to-peer finance under the hood, even if UI is showing you some nice picture, right? So under the hood, it's about many threads, right, working in parallel. Yeah, it's kind of real peer-to-peer finance. So I'm not sure you can find anything like that on Ethereum blockchain.
That's amazing to hear. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and what maybe people should know is that the two parts of Sigma Finance are the backend that, or the contracts that Cheese wrote, Kay did, and then the front end that Captain Nemo wrote. And let's say I take this 7-month loan right here on top, and I accept it, and all of a sudden, the servers that Captain Nemo is running these on blow up. They're done. They're gone. Isn't it true that I could then find somebody to interact with a smart contract and help me write it so that I could then liquidate the loan if it hasn't been honored, or somebody could find it the other way? Those smart contracts are still out there and still interactable without this centralized web page, correct?
Yeah, sure. So, Captain Nemo does not have any control over the on-chain contracts, right? So, the UI is just extracting information from the blockchain and rendering it, right, in some accessible form. And providing also, some interaction. So in case of UI being shut down or whatever, right? So contracts are still on the blockchain, right, in the same state. So then you can do something about the shutdown event. So you can, for example, run your own copy of the UI. As far as I know, it's open source, right? It's also possible to run some alternative UI, or even to repay your debts. For example, just using some manually written code, right? As I'm doing with bots, right? One way or another. It's still possible to interact with all those contracts. So, the UI is disconnected from them, and Captain Nemo is controlling basically nothing in regards with on-chain part.
He's just connecting two people together to make the contract, and then he just reads it off the chain.
Right. So also I guess there is some off-chain bot which is doing bond liquidation automatically for you, right? So you don't need to mess with that, right? So the bot will just send collateral automatically to your address. So all those parts could be done by any other entity, right? So anyone can do that.
I think that's a key factor that people should know. So I'm glad you were able to speak to that. That's just speaks to Ergo and how amazing that is, and that something like that can be built.
Right. So I think summarizing. There are no risks with execution, right? So there are no update keys or freeze button, right? So centralized contracts, whatever, right? Your risks are purely financial, right? And then it's up to you how to play this game.
Stupidity can be a big risk with a lot of traders, Kushti and CW.
True, yeah, and then also another thing I would like to highlight is that there is no interest coming without risk, right? And I think that's fair, right? So. Riskless profit is something strange, right? So I think it's just something unrealistic. So if you think there is riskless profit, probably you just don't know about risks.
Or you live in the US and you're a banker. Then there's riskless profits when you can get bailed out.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe someone, right, is sponsoring your riskless life, but yeah, I mean, that's also another
subsidizing your lifestyle. One point I'd like to sort of just go back into the GridBot side of things is having the 3 liquidity pools, essentially. So the SigUSD contract, the GridBots, and SPF or Spectrum liquidity pools. One thing that then can do is people arbitraging the opportunities between those, ultimately driving volume on chain as well. So that picks up a lot of volume for transaction fees potentially, and ultimately a little bit more rewards for miners in the long run. Especially, I think we've seen a couple of times where we've had a couple of bots trying to outbid each other, and on I think is it 370 ERG, I think it was, where they're just trying to sort of one up each other and ultimately just having a percentage of profit, and that's what they're programmed to do. So that's another sort of benefit for the ecosystem as a whole in that situation.
Right. Well, that's another playground, right? So when miners especially will somehow get some smarter, right? And then we'll also participate in those games, reordering transactions, running count bots, and so on. And even with the current behavior when they just sorting transactions by fee. So yeah, you can see worse sometimes, right? When it's about paying more and more to miners to get first into a block, which is also quite interesting game. And yeah, I mean, pretty fair also, right? So everyone is getting what he deserves here, right? So I mean, if you see some profit and wanna realize it first, right, then you need to pay for that. Right. So another interesting thing I realized just a few days ago. So with my GridBots, potentially I'm eligible for getting SPF as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I need to figure out how to interact with Spectrum contracts for that. But should be possible, and would be interesting, right? Then even bots can get SPF tokens.
Watch, Kushti's bot has 80% of the SPF payout.
That's an interesting point as well, because they're interacting with the contracts, obviously, and just like any other entity, they're entitled to do so, and obviously, and getting that reward in return. So, yeah, it's a very good point.
So the only thing to do is to get into this machinery, right, of yield farming. So would be interesting, right? And then so if you can get additional profit in SPF, right, that also can affect bonds market, right? So for example, if you are attracting funds and your competitor also doing that on Sigmafi via bonds, right? Then if one is getting SPF rewards and another not, then yeah, the first party can also provide higher interest probably, right, on the Sigmafi side.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to mention also. You kind of have a bidding war on the interest front then, by people trying to incentivize to fund loans and things like that as well. So yeah, there's lots of different plays here to be able to people utilize these platforms on multiple different fronts. And I think the beauty about like the Sigma bonds or the Sigmafi setup is being P2P. You've got the two parties there that interact, and you know the assumptions, you know the game plan basically from the get-go. So you know the collateral, you know what the loan term is, the percentage and the interest rate, so the return. So it's up to any party whether they want to agree to those terms or not, and having that flexibility and people wanting to take on certain risk profiles, it's fantastic. So a lot of people may only want to set up a Sigmafi or a Sigma bond loan for 1% interest. A lot of people will sort of not take that because it's not a higher risk or higher return for them. But other people will jump at that opportunity because it's kind of like somewhat of a, there is risk there, but it's a lot lower risk than say a 6.5, 15% sort of interest or collateralized loan sort of side of things. So seeing this whole DeFi sort of ecosystem coming about here in Ergo, it's fantastic to watch and exciting to see for the ecosystem as a whole.
I love the fact that Kushti just said that something like Sigmafi doesn't exist anywhere else that he knows of, because it's not possible. That's really cool. Kushti, well, we have you. I have one question that I asked Joe back at Christmas time, and I'd like to ask you. It's very unrelated, and we can cut it if you don't want to answer it.
All right.
My question is, because I think it's not talked about enough, and when it is talked about, it gets not swept under the rug, but there's not many there's a lot of opinions on both sides. How do you feel about the current transaction fees that are in Ergo, what they're set at, and their potential to be set higher to make more money make more fees for the miners, and without potentially disrupting or discouraging trading from getting too high? How do you feel about the current 0.001 TX fee? The next protocol that we're going to talk about is DuckPools for passive earning. And how is DuckPools pooled lending different than like Sigmafi lending, CW?
So in simple terms, it's kind of in the name for DuckPools. DuckPools is a pool-based lending protocol, whereas Sigma bonds is kind of like we touched on, the P2P perspective, where you just got two parties. What happens in DuckPools, basically you do have like a liquidity pool there that all the loans and everything, the collateral goes into, and that's ultimately the difference between the two designs of these two DeFi protocols.
So whereas if I'm on Sigmafi.app, and I'm looking at all the options, I can see something that has a 10% interest rate or a 3% interest rate. Yeah. Whereas in DuckPools, it looks like we're stuck at a pooled, I think it moves too. That interest rate moves depending on what's in the pool.
Utilization, correct, yeah.
Yeah, so DuckPools is more of a kind of set and forget lending program when it's fully there, whereas Sigmafi, you really kind of have to look at the bonds that you want to take or lend or borrow to, and do a little more research as far as that goes.
Yeah, in simple terms, that's correct. Like with the pool lending, you don't necessarily have to, like, say you want to borrow some erg or something in those respects, or just use erg as an example. I want to borrow 100 erg on Sigmafi.app. I'd have to wait for someone to be able to create that that loan contract, or that bond, I should say, for that 100 erg for me to be able to want to agree to terms and things. What happens differently in the pool based, I can say I want to borrow 100 erg. This is my collateral and things. Take out the loan and happy days. I'm on my way then. So that's a little bit of a different sort of thing. It's a little bit more convenient for the pool based. But then on the bond side, P2P, everything along that sort of stuff. And just on the interest rate, you can see on the screen now that on the borrowing side, the current interest rate is 2.71%. And like I said, it does fluctuate with pool utilization, the protocol utilization, fees, et cetera, et cetera.
So I would say your safest, I think it's safe to say, correct me if I'm wrong, that your safest bet, but at the cost of a low percentage rate, is probably DuckPools when the protocol opens, where you can dump some stuff into it and pretty much forget about it and come back to it when you're ready to collect, as far as that goes.
You're a brave man throwing that out there, my
I
friend.
hear you. I mean,
but
comparatively speaking, yeah.
Comparatively speaking, yes, that's correct. Obviously, with all these protocols, you have to know your assumptions, what you're interacting with, all that sort of stuff. Like we mention it so many times, because it is very important for the end user to be able to know the risk profile, the assumptions, what they're interacting with as a whole. And yeah, just to reiterate that once again, the collateralized position that you can see here, you've got three basic options. So you've got one, so 135%, 150, and 170%. So that if the price of erg fluctuates and things like that, you can become pretty close to your liquidation point. So that's just something to be mindful of as well, like when you're interacting with this sort of protocol in regards to sort of just that terminology of set and forget. You just have to be mindful of price fluctuations and things like that. Whereas on the Sigmafi side, it's basically you've got set parameters, and it's basically time determining what the outcome is. And we kind of touched on a little bit, like long positions, short positions, whether you want to actually repay your debt as such, depending on prices and all that sort of stuff on the Sigmafi side. So you might even want to allow yourself to be liquidated in that respect. But yeah, it's a little bit different in design changes in that respect.
Yeah, and this one in DuckPools, you can't allow, you can't let it run out in time, because there's no time essentially. So your only chance of being liquidated is if erg falls below your collateral loan ratio here. So yeah, it's correct. Interesting different set of protocols there with the inherent risk involved in both. But you definitely, you aren't paid as much for the less risk of a protocol as far as that goes. And that's the way it is in other things in the real world kind of thing.
But on just a simple comment just on that, 2.75% is a lot more than what you're getting if you just have it in your wallet. So yeah, a lot of people will be happy to have that paid as on their savings account, for example.
Yeah, how much do we get in our savings accounts in the US banks? I mean, it's like
not being in US, I've got zero idea.
It's insanely low. You don't even notice. It's just a laughable, It's like why even bother? Send me a packet of stamps every year or something. All right. So let's wrap it up with some Sigmanauts updates. We've kept those meetings going strong weekly, posting those transcripts and chats, and the agendas. So if you're interested in what's going on in the Sigmanauts, you can see that. We're trying to do a little bit more tweeting with a Sigmanauts account. It's a little difficult. So if any of you SIGs or SIGcans are even watching, we're happy to include you in the tweet machine that we are, and get some other tweets going out from each and every one of you on the main Sigmanauts Twitter. It's hard for a couple people to manage it themselves. The more the merrier, as long as we're following the same kind of theme there. What else?
I think just on the transcripts, or just on the transcripts, I think they're fantastic, because I myself, I'm pretty guilty of having to stay up to ridiculous hours throughout the week. one thing I do try and do is try and catch up on a bit of sleep. And unfortunately for myself, the SIG meetings are held at 2 a.m. Sorry, my time, on a Monday morning, very, very early on a Monday morning. So that's one opportunity I try and get some sleep for myself. But having the transcripts available, I can read up about the discussions that are taking place and decisions being made and directions people want to sort of take different things. So if anyone wants to keep up to date with what's going on in the Sigmanauts, the transparency there is fantastic.
That's the hope there is too, exactly what you're saying, is that people just feel more involved, even if they don't want to be involved with like meeting. They can still kind of feel like they're part of it, and they are for sure. Next is I was sent by one of the Sigmanauts. I was sent a ton of stickers. I think they arrived today or tomorrow. Massive amount of stickers, big box.
Yeah.
And the thought was that if anybody wants them and they may feel comfortable with sending me their address, I'm happy to ship them to you in the US, at least USPS, so we can get these.
You don't ship to Australia?
I wonder how much that would be. Does USPS will send it there, won't they? They're good at that. You might get them in a couple of years. I'll send them with Nemo.
It might be a bit soggy.
Yeah. So if anybody wants them, happy to put them in an envelope and ship you some so you can put them around. I'm going to put them around campus. I'm going to put them downtown. I'll put one on my laptop, that kind of stuff, just to get the visual of Ergo. I think I'm sending some down to Sis, who's in Florida, who is going to try to put some up before the Bitcoin conference. So all that kind of stuff helps. Those little things, you see those stickers are like, huh, what's Ergo? And there's a QR code, let's scan it or let's look it up, kind of thing. So I think that helps.
Yeah, they're having a QR code on there is it's great engagement. It can take you straight to a website. It can take you to a product on Ergo, like the utilization there. Like we all know how QR codes work. But yeah, just bringing awareness and that sort of that guerrilla marketing where it just piques someone interested. Like they may have heard of the term and it makes them look further, or they just never heard of Ergo and they're just intrigued now to sort of figure out what's going on that front. We do have a lot of things going on in the ecosystem, so it's just a matter of sort of bringing that or breaking down that barrier to entry and bringing some more engagement through a different channel, which is sort of awesome to see. And it'd be good to see some up around the Bitcoin conferences, that's for sure.
That would be neat. Walk in a city and see an Ergo sticker that you didn't put up yourself and be like, somebody was here. That's great.
Do you have one in front of you? Can you?
I don't. I sent them to my work because I didn't feel like doxing my home address.
Fair enough.
So hopefully they come today. I'll show them on the next show in 2 weeks. I think that's it. We'll probably, as you said earlier, CW, we're gonna have to break the show up into 2 pieces. There's a lot that we talked about with Kushti that I don't want to cut. That was fantastic. So that may be the case. It is 2.5 hours later. So I'm sorry, CW.
Time for bed.
You want to close it out, CW?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, we've got everything that's happening on within the ecosystem. We have the developer updates. We've got Hash It Out. We've got the Sigma update. We've got the AMAs. What else do we have going on? The SIG meetings. There's numerous channels where people can actually jump on, engage, and things like that throughout the ecosystem. By all means, try and spread awareness where you see fit. We do have a number of products which are starting to find their voice in the ecosystem. That's just support everyone as much as possible and retweet, cross post, everything like that. So it helps build engagement and overall impressions across the entire ecosystem. So it'd be awesome to see everyone sort of get involved on that front.
Exactly. Well said, CW. Yeah. Well said. All right, everybody, have a good weekend. Whenever I decide to post this, have whatever good week or weekend is coming after that. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been a pleasure chatting it once again, mate. Have a good one.